and we are live here with one of my favorite people, Zakharin. Alex, welcome to the Runwithalli Live podcast.
Hi, Alli. Thank you so much. Amazing being here with you.
Oh my God, amazing having you on here, and thank you so much for joining me here today. Real quick, for the returning listeners, if you haven't subscribed to the show already, please do so after this wonderful chat. And to the new listeners on here, welcome. This is a really great episode. Alex has been working with me as his running coach for 2 years and just completed a 3-hour and 4-minute marathon, going from a 3-hour and 45-minute marathon. And now he's going to tell us all about his journey. So Alex, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you here. Your story is an inspiration to me, and I'm sure amongst many others. And I want you to tell us kind of who you are in and outside of running to kick it off.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alli. Well, I'm a real estate agent who lives in New York, who works day and night as all real estate agents do. And originally, I started running just in my spare time. Once I figure out that I can run a little bit around my house where I live. And yeah, I've been doing it for a while until I met you one day and actually figure out that we can do better than 4 hours, 4 hours per marathon time. And, a couple of years after being coached by you, we actually did it in close to 3 hours, like you said. So I'm beyond blessed. Thank you so much for bringing me to this result. It's insane.
Yeah, and like I was telling Alex before, a coach's job is to help guide anyone. Alex, you did all the work. I just was here guiding you and providing that kind of direction. So give yourself a little more credit. And to anyone on here, I hope today's episode inspires you in a way where you are motivated to push yourself beyond your limits that you've already set for yourself. Don't set them.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. So Alex, well, first of all, I'm going to throw in a question for you here. What has been your favorite workout so far? I guess like recently.
My favorite workouts being those Friday long runs before the last marathon, where it would take about 3 hours or so, right? Give or take. And you would ask me to run 10, 11, 12 miles easy-ish. And then we would do interval training, various paces at various times. I think last time we would have maybe like 2-3 times, 15 minutes at, I think, six something pace. And then maybe do a little shorter interval runs after, maybe like five times 2 minutes run at 540, I believe, threshold pace, something like this. And then another few miles, 2-3 miles just to cool down. So that's been my favorite one so far, because you basically told me that for me not to deteriorate at the end of the race, I need to be able to run when I'm like tired, right? And, hopefully even to run better the last few miles. And that's, I think, transformed, my running game. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And, just to sprinkle a little bit of like context into that. So Alex is describing, when he says easy, for any science nerds on here, easy zone 2 running, moving into tampering with different efforts between VO2 max, threshold pace, keeping it all like highly aerobic, but adjusting to those different efforts and speed on tired legs, and also getting that higher aerobic stimulus, get his heart rate up, and to run and finish on tired legs, but finish strong with those really quick and fast strides. And also it keeps the run interesting. And Alex, I love how you mentioned 3 hours. It was close to 3 hours, not like a set mileage, because it's a true testament to the marathon. Alex's goal was and is to run sub 2:45. I'm just throwing that out there. Like I said, no limits. And so that's very highly relatable. We don't want to go to the well and race in training. And so being on your feet for 3 hours is a high training stimulus, and making sure that we're recovering around that. So Alex, thank you so much for sharing that fun fact. And let's get into like when you started working with a running coach, which just happens to be me. Wow. And like what your journeys looked like since then. Like, I know you said you started by like running around your town, not for time, like kind of just like getting outside and exploring the world by foot kind of thing. And like what your growth looked like throughout the journey so far.
Right. So I've been running all my life, but most of my life I've been running like an amateur without even knowing what the pace is. The concept of pace, I learned at one of the marathon races maybe like 3 years ago, give or take, because someone asked me, what pace is that? Like someone was overtaking me at the race in Memphis again, maybe like 3-4 years ago, and like she asked me what's the pace, and I had no idea. And she's like, is it 7:20? I'm like, no idea. It's 26 miles. That's it. So I had no idea up until I started working out with you. I had no idea about the concept of pacing. But I was running. I used to run since 5 years old, 5-6 years old. In the village, because I was growing up in Russia and Ukraine both. And in Ukraine, when I lived with my grandparents, it's like a little village, and I would run with older kids. All my friends were like 3-4 years older, and they've been like working out and running. I just started running with them. I think that every morning now, I think we used to run maybe 3 kilometers, something like this. But I had no idea about the distance back then. I was just like running. And the same in high school. So I would run okay. I would compete with guys in my class. But again, that was usually 1 kilometer. We don't do miles in Europe, right? So we operate in kilometers. So that was pretty much that. A few times my school asked me to run representing the class, not the school, but the class. Because, I was probably one of a few guys that could run in the class. But again, it's not kudos to me. It's just kudos to, like, no one else was really running. So I was running like that. And then later in my 20s, I was just like running from the office back to my home when I felt like that. And I ran my first marathon back in 2016 in St. Petersburg, Russia. It's a marathon called White Nights, because in June you have white nights. Like in St. Petersburg, it's white. Like the night is like a day, essentially. And so that's how they have the marathon. It's basically, I guess, represents the locality. And so I ran, it took me like close to 4 hours, like maybe 3:45. And that was my first race ever. I never run a race, like any race, even half marathon, 5K, 10K, I never did it. So I was like, screw it, let's do it. It's 42.195 kilometers. And I was thinking, all right, I'm going to suffer anyways, because I never run anything. So let's just suffer the whole thing and be done. And I'm never going to run again anyways. So yeah, I just did this race, almost died. And I remember, like, that was the hardest recovery of my life. Every other marathon since then wasn't like this. I think I broke something inside of me back then, but then I recovered. But it took me maybe like a week at least of like, lame body and limping and everything else. So, but that was in 2016. And then since then, I was just like, all right, let me just run once a year or something like this. And that's what I was doing till the day I met you in 2022, where I think you asked me to run a mile, to pace myself for a mile. Then I did it. You looked at my time and said, you know what, actually, you can do something with this. Like you have something that you could improve, and we can work with that. And that's how you and I started working since 2022. And fast forward like 2 years, a little over, we did a Memphis race, 3 hours, 4 minutes.
Yeah. And also, if you want to talk about like your marathon, like the year before that too.
The year
that
before
that was a huge, like, yeah. So, Alex didn't just go from like 3:45 to 3 hours and 4 minutes. He's been working on getting his 5K faster, his mile faster, and periodizing his training, meaning just like focusing on different things, building into those marathons, and hasn't been breaking down, aside from one little time where we had a little bit of a hiccup, but worked around it and like quickly remediated the situation and got back to training. And now Alex is like the pro at properly fueling and hydrating and really beginning to incorporate that more into his training. And Alex, I'm excited to see like where you go with that. But yeah, let's talk about a year out before the 3 hour and 4 minute marathon.
You and I started in 2022, and I was on my crusade of running the marathon a month. I remember, which you told me it's a stupid thing to do. You just have to run a marathon every month or so.
A little bit of tough love, that's all.
Yeah. But it made sense because you couldn't really improve. But for me, it was just the goal of doing a marathon, a month, 12 marathons in 2022. And you still helped me to grow a lot, because I remember just 2 months into like the coaching with you, we actually started improving all the marathons, because instead of having 4 hours or whatever, one day, I think in St. Louis, we did like 3:30. And I was like, wow, because you told me how to pace, you told me how to run, and we've been working for a few months. And then
did you see that girl again in the marathon? And did she ask you what pace you're going out at?
I hope to see her next time, because I'm going to know the pace.
I love that. No, like, and thank you for like sharing that and being vulnerable. I really appreciate it. To the listeners on here, I am sure you could relate in some aspect. I mean, don't feel silly, don't feel stupid. Everyone has their own story. And Alex, I love that. You know, look how far you've come so far.
I'll tell you more. Okay, if you want another vulnerability, I didn't know what like 10 miles was. I didn't know like the concept of distances, even smaller distances, up until I got my iPhone. And not even at the beginning. Before Strava, I think I used to use Runkeeper, something like this, right? And then I was like, all right, let me like measure the distance from my office back to my home. I'm telling you, it probably was like 2016. So it's fairly recently when I started actually to understand the concept of distance, because I never knew that. So if the same girl would ask me, you know, which mile it is, I'm like, what is mile? Anyways, so
I love it. No, I love it. And you know, this is why we got to get you to like run some of the world majors, Berlin, London, Tokyo, because they're all in kilometers.
You're running those now. So
I am. I just did Berlin and it was an experience and it was all in kilometers, no mile markers, just kilometers.
And so you did
yeah.
3 marathons under 3 hours, like way sub 3 in a row, right? Like you did your last three marathons in like 2 hours. 2 hours.
I did. But like you, I work hard to get there. And it just, you know, thank you for surfacing that. But it goes to say, I always say to anyone I coach, like my goal is to get you to kick my butt, you know, and just like basically, like I've told Alex before, I use myself as a guinea pig often to test things out before I give to any of my athletes that I'm coaching right now in my life, because I am still competing and I know that won't be forever, but it's cool to just kind of like leverage that and take advantage of that now and to help other people like crush their goals and exceed them and like go beyond places where they even didn't think of going before. I guess.
You walk the talk. You know what I mean? You do what
I try.
Unlike
I try.
many coaches, unlike many, you know, trainers who just like they know how to do it, they've never done themselves, or they just like, oh, basically some people say, do what I say, don't do what I do. You know?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, I do want to share something on here. You know, what's been like pretty cool is, well, this was one workout where Alex and I think I might have told him that we were doing an easy run. I'm not sure. It was maybe, and basically I had unlimited mile repeats that day. I told Alex to join me because he was also training. We were training for something similar. And I said, hey, listen, we're both going to go on the track. We're both going to like work it. And that's it. Alex shows up ready to go with whatever was thrown at him. And he's like, so coach, what are we doing today? And I said, unlimited mile repeats. He's like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, until we get tired and miss the paces. And he, with no joke, like he was like, okay. And like, was just like a trooper and like did it. Like you just did it. You were like,
died that day.
Me, I would have ran the other way. So don't do what I say. Maybe that's what I meant. But it was a really like all that being said, it was a really fun workout, fun time. And thank you. I appreciate you saying that because I do try to walk the walk, but also, you know, I always say to anyone that I coach, like, it's the people I coach that inspire me the most. It's not like any pros, to be honest with you. And I know that like, just like I'm holding you accountable, it goes both ways, you know?
Nice.
And this go, yeah, no,
each other.
It goes both ways in the community that, you know, that you've made possible and that, you know, I've been building has been just electric. And I think it keeps us all going. And, you know, I want to go into nutrition and hydration a little bit, just because, speaking of doing as I say, or doing what I say, you know, I think that for the marathon distance, moving into this conversation, hydrating and fueling is kind of like a game changer. I think everyone is different. So what works for me is not going to work for Alex, to the listeners on here, but it is important to like recognize that when you're going on your feet for over 90 minutes, you're going to need to give your body back what it's losing in order to really smash it that last 10K, right? Everyone says that the last 10K is the marathon. It's true. You want to be able to lay down the hammer and run that last 10K. That's the goal, right? And that's what keeps the marathon exhilarating, scary, exciting, all those things. And so, Alex, I would love for you to talk about like your struggles and your pain points with hydrating,
Yeah.
and nutrition during your runs and like what you're looking to improve, like knowing those struggles?
Right. So I never really bothered with fueling and hydrating during the runs in my life up until pretty much started working with you. And again, I was not always the best example. We can talk about it, but I never had a bottle with me during my runs up until like last year maybe. I mean, you and I talked about it before, but I just never carried it with me. I was like, all right, I'm like a camel. Let me store my water. And that's probably the silliest thing. Like, this is probably the biggest mistake. One of, right? At least. Like, I was like, okay, let me have water before my workout. And then once I'm back home, I have another water. And the same with food. Like, all right, let me have something. Or maybe sometimes I would just run on empty stomach. And I'm like, I'm gonna be home after the run anyway, so I'll have my food, and that's probably was like the biggest worst thing like I've ever done. And the moment you told me that we need to fuel during the run, and B, that stomach is the muscle that needs to be trained, I think that's when like I really started growing. And it wasn't that long ago, to be honest. Like I became super diligent about it after another series of tough love with my running coach. Honestly, maybe even before the last marathon, maybe like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, because before, like, okay, I need to hydrate and fuel, sure, fine, but it's not like I needed to do it like all the time during all the runs. And then one day you told me, actually, yeah, you have to do it every time. And but it helped me a lot, and especially last Memphis race. It's the first time in my life I was super confident. Every 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, I would have electrolyte pills. I would have gels, water all the time. I even practiced the soft bottle thing that I need to practice more with next time. But yeah, that was the first time I was very confident in that, and I think it helped. Like I knew I'm gonna finish not at 3 hours, but I knew it's gonna be very close to that. The moment I managed to sustain the pace, half a marathon, 13 miles, and then like I knew it's in me, I have it. And I think it was, of course, because of the coaching and the runs and the workouts before, but huge part was it due to like the fuel experience.
Yeah, I'm so excited because thank you for sharing all that. And we all like grow, and I think that as you evolve as like a person, an athlete, you adjust your fueling and hydration just as you adjust your training, right? In order to get something different, like a different result, get faster, you got to adjust how you're offsetting that stress of the training by, adjusting your fueling and hydration strategy and really dialing into it. And so I'm excited for you to like see where you could take that, because I think you have a lot of potential, as you know. And going back to like Alex saying he was like fueling and hydrating during his runs, there's a reason why, to the listeners on here, I told him that, because I know he's probably going to do that for half the runs, being real. So I just like to hammer that into his head to help him, Alex, you really get the most out of yourself during your training and to recover well after these crazy workouts we're going to have ahead, right? Yeah, like lots more of those. We have
a lot
aggressive goal. Yeah. So but I love all this. Thank you.
Yeah.
For
Can
sharing
I
that.
one more input to that?
Yeah, of course.
Like my last marathon, I finished the marathon and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even hungry after this race. I used to eat everything around me. They would give you first bananas and then mandarins and then chocolate milk. I'm like, sure, chocolate milk, I guess, goes fine with mandarins, fine. And then you have chips, and then you have more bananas. And then they have like this massive catering in Memphis. So you have like meat, all types of meat, pizza, and then beer as well. They give you beer. And then, by the way, I was very excited about beer in my previous runs. This time, like last race, I wasn't hungry. I didn't want beer. I was all into race. And then you and I had a conversation after the run, and that's it. So I had a little bit of food, but I wasn't hungry because of the fueling during the race. And somehow I don't care about beer anymore, like at all. I was just like, I don't want beer after the race. Like I used to, but I guess something changed.
But anyways, yeah, getting to Alex's point, you know, I feel like I could relate to this. when you're fueling and giving your body back what it's losing, when you're running a marathon and you finish, you're not going to be that hungry. And that's a fulfilling feeling. It's important to kind of, as we've spoken about, graze on foods and kind of like give your body back still like slowly like what it needs. But like, it's a good feeling, right? To not feel like ravenous and like not feeling like you just depleted the tank and you're like dizzy and you're, just like kind of out of it. I think it's rewarding, and the more and more you do that, I feel like you're just gonna like be more excited and chasing more aggressive efforts. I like to say, not paces, efforts.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but like we've got room to go. And what are you working towards now, like currently? Why don't you tell?
We're working on the fastest 5K we ever done next month, and then in between we're gonna do April. In April we're gonna do half marathon, the fastest we've ever done, and then the destination is the same, Memphis, the land of Elvis Presley, in December. That's where we're gonna do new marathon under 3 hours. We're gonna do it in 2:55. That's pretty much the goal. Yeah.
And what Alex means by destination is like another stepping stone towards the destination, because the destination, we don't ever want to get there. Running could take you to so many places. And so looking at that as another marathon, that's going to be as fast as marathon, maybe. Yeah.
So funny thing, I think you and I talked about it before. So I was really struggling with like improving half marathon at some point, and we went to like in September we did half marathon, and it was my PR, right? And that was like deliberate effort. Like we wanted to do PR in half marathon, and we did. Maybe not by a landslide, by a margin, but it was still the best half marathon back then. And then in Memphis, we hit 6 PRs, starting from I believe 15K, right? Like all the way from 15K half marathon, and all the way all the other distances, including marathon. And I was like, wow, we aimed for the marathon, but we also did the best half marathon and anything in between. I was like, wow. And that was like 2-3 months since the race before. Crazy.
It's crazy, and it's crazy like how fitness compounds and builds, and you're stacking bricks, meaning like you're stacking bricks of training, periods of training on one another, and we're staying injury free and like really, dialing into when we need to pull back.
Yeah.
And, when we might need to like push the gas a little bit, right? I think that's, so like Alex and I, like, we're very transparent about like how Alex is feeling, so we could adjust the training as he goes and adapt it to where he is at in his life with work and with his fitness right now, and based on how he's feeling to like get the best results and optimize recovery and fitness. Yeah. Get those gains.
Also, one of the best lessons like I took from you, I remember at some point, like how we have a rest day. So you have a week of workout and it's like a rest day, right? And I remember I used to treat this rest day as like a kind of like a backup option. Like say my rest day is Saturday, but maybe I didn't feel like running on Tuesday or Wednesday, or maybe I have late appointments, whatever. I'm like, sure, this day is gonna be my rest day, and then I have it covered on Saturday, right? So I'll do something on Saturday. And you told me something like, whenever you have your rest day, this is your rest day. All the other days you run, and you make an effort, like you prioritize that you run on the day, because psychologically this is the attitude, right? If I'm supposed to run today, I'm gonna run, and if I'm supposed to rest today, I'm gonna rest. And like, you don't play with this. Of course, we all have emergencies, and all the listeners now, they come from different walks of life. But I think it's important when like you prioritize and you do this run, and then you do your rest day, and you never confuse those, right? Regardless of what's happening in your life.
Oh, I really like that. Can you like elaborate on that a little, like what you mean, and maybe talk about like the energy, giving yourself a little energy back?
Right. So like these days, my rest day is on Thursday, and it's a deliberate effort. You and I did this, and Friday, by the way, is a long run usually, right? And for me, it's better like this way, because I know that Saturday and Sunday, because I'm in real estate, right? You're always busy, but Saturday you can kind of play with this a little bit more. You can dedicate a bit more time to your things, while Thursday is prone to a lot of chaos. So I was like, why don't I have this as a controlled environment, which the concept I learned from you as well, like having a controlled environment. So Thursday is going to be my rest day. So that's when I do my work, or I meet with clients, or I have these all of a sudden coming things that were not planned before. But those unplanned things, they are planned because I know it's a rest day from run, right? And then Saturday and Sunday I will run, even though one of them is supposed to be the rest day, right? So it basically means that if I'm not feeling like running, I would still run, but it's tailoring your week better. So I guess the point is that like you do have to be disciplined and do the run days whenever you have the runs then and days and never mess with that. But you can also be smart with planning, right? Like if I'm not tempted, like if Thursday is my rest day, it's easier, right? As opposed to have my rest day on Sunday and I run all the day during the week and I have to work. So you are disciplined, but you're also smart with your plans.
Yeah, I love that. And, of course, like Alex, you mentioned, obviously emergencies come up, but not making that a habit, sticking to those intentional rest days and like planning your work life around your training. It gives you even more structure. Being in real estate, it's chaotic, just like, running your own business, you got a time block. And so that's a whole other discussion we could have on another podcast. Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I love that. And also it forces you to like really kind of lean into the rest and like get ready to work that following day.
Sure.
So I love it. I love it.
You're
yeah.
the most organized person I know. So I learned from you.
Oh my gosh, we learn from each other. Thank you. Sometimes I feel like my life is a hot mess. I'm definitely far from perfect. And I feel like, one of my mentors told me and reminded me from actually Gary Keller, who coached her, that if you don't fail every day, multiple times, you're not doing something right.
Oh yeah.
And I love that. I was like, ooh. And I don't like to like say failures. I like to say lessons because it just makes it sound a little better. True. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's just a nicer way of putting it, right? Lessons, getting that constructive criticism and, taking it, not taking things personally and growing from it, right? Lessons, failures allow us to grow.
For sure. And I call it breaking things. I think they were talking about like, I think it was back when Facebook was just like starting out, like a few years into it. And they were like, you know what, we're gonna grow and try a lot of things every single day. And we're probably gonna break things around. Maybe we're gonna even break things that work for us while we're pursuing better things. And so that's how I see running, honestly, because you break things sometimes, unfortunately, literally, like all these injuries and everything else. And sometimes you have to step back as well, right? Like last December, I think like everybody was injured around me. I was like, oh my God, I'm like blessed to be alive and be able to walk because everybody's injured. But that was good. And then, it's a part of this bigger thing. You kind of break things around you, but then you're growing. So yeah. I think we should break more things.
Let's break more things. I love it. Cheers to breaking more things, Alex. I love it. And this has been an amazing conversation, and I'm so excited. Definitely inviting you back on the podcast for a break more things episode, maybe. But why did you say yes? Besides the fact that I asked you, obviously, to being on the Runwithalli Live podcast today.
I said yes because the worst thing in running and in life, I think it's like being alone. And I think there's like a lot of things that we could share with each other. And, like sometimes you think that this is your specific question, like you're the only one struggling with this problem, right? Like maybe you don't want how to run faster, or maybe you get tired, or maybe you don't know how to prioritize, or maybe you don't know how to fuel, like myself used to be. And you think you're the only one, and turns out like almost everybody is exactly like that, because we all experience the same thing. Everybody wants to be happy at the end of their life, and maybe give the world a little bit, and have fun and be happy, and maybe to push yourself a little bit in life. So I think it's nice. You creating a great community. I'm in your club, in all the social media, including WhatsApp, right? I see all these guys, and I feel like we struggle with very similar things in one way or the other. So maybe whatever you discussed and I discussed today, maybe it's applicable for more people than we think, right?
I think so.
And
yeah.
also you're super fun to talk to, so that's the other reason.
Oh my God. And honestly, like I always say, sharing is caring. I love that you said that. And it is, right? Because there's other people with our pain points too. And with everything you talked about today, I would be surprised if none of the listeners on here didn't say, hey, that was a really good episode. I really like the point that Alex and Alli, spoke about, or that like you just shared about like your fueling and all the vulnerability that goes along with that. And yeah, I mean, it's always a blast, Alex, talking to you. Alex is a ball of energy, and this is not me like hard selling his business, but he is a very successful realtor.
Thank you.
And he has a very, very big social media following, and he's also like super engaging and fun, not boring.
Too engaging sometimes.
No, I don't think there's such a thing. It's your energy is electric. Like, love it. We all love you. And we like, yeah, good energy is good energy, right?
Yes, it's coming.
This world needs more of that.
Yes, we always need more energy, especially in New York, but I guess everywhere. In Houston, where you're going to be running, good luck, by the way. Your race is coming in a few days. You're going to crush it, I know.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, it should be a fun time, like I always tell you at the end of a race, if you're not like hurting and like saying like F you towards the end of the race, like I can't talk now, like you're not doing something right. Right.
Absolutely. I'm in every single race, and every single race I'm thinking, all right, this is the last time I'm doing this. And then the next day, you know what? Something nice is coming. I should run this.
Oh, same. Me too. Right. Like during, and then afterwards you're like, that was like a weird kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But not during. During it should hurt. Come on. Like, right? Like you're pushing it. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Alex, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It was a pleasure having you. To the listeners on here, I'm going to be sharing Alex's social media links and anything he wants me to share in the show notes, which is going to be an Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podchaser, Pandora, you name it, across directories. And Alex, well, be diligent of Alex's time if you do reach out to him, but reach out to him and, feel free to ask him questions about running, real estate, all the things. I think a really big takeaway from today's chat is that, we all benefit from something that we all have to share here, whether it's like running related or just community related. We all have different pain points that we struggle with, and you're not alone. You're not alone in it.
Yeah.
So
like this song from British Football Club in Liverpool says, "You never walk alone."
There you go. Was that a Ted Lasso quote too?
He probably stole it from Liverpool.
Yeah, probably did. But that's such a good show. Oh my gosh. Anyways, well, Alex, thank you so much.
Jolly. It's been fun. Thank you so much, and good luck to everyone, and good luck to you on your race in Houston.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And to the listeners on here, don't forget to subscribe to the show. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.